Meet Wanda, an unhappy housewife in rural eastern Pennsylvania, stays on her sister's couch after leaving her husband, and walking across a field of coal and hitching a ride, she shows up to a divorce court. Late, relinquishing her rights to her children, and grants her husband a divorce. After being terminated from her job at a sewing factory, Wanda runs away with a man with whom she has a one-night stand, only for him to abandon her at an ice cream shop. Nearly penniless, Wanda takes a nap in a movie theatre, where she's robbed in her sleep, and going to a bar to use the restroom, she desperately clings to an older man she thinks to be the bartender. The man, Norman Dennis, is a criminal in the process of robbing the bar. Unable to rid himself of Wanda, he takes her on the run, and even after learning the details of his lifestyle, Wanda decides to stay with Norman, who she calls Mr. Dennis. Wanda is a 1970 American independent drama film written and directed by Barbara Loden, who also stars in the title role. Loden arrived in New York as a teenager in the late 40s and soon got a job in the chorus line at the Copacabana Club. Her most notable screen role before Wanda was the promiscuous alcoholic flapper in Kazan's Splendor in the Grass from 1961. Given her long-legged, beauty-contestant body and her childlike vulnerability, it was all too easy to categorise her as a sex kitten. She won a Featured Actress Tony Award for her performance as the Marilyn Monroe avatar in Arthur Miller's After the Fall in the 1964 Repertory Theatre of Lincoln Center production, directed by Kazan himself. Loden was also married, of course, to Elia Kazan, but she never had another major role on stage or in the movies until Wanda. Instead, she began to write screenplays, and the character of Wanda had its source in an article Loden read in the New York Daily News in 1960 about a woman who was an accomplice in a bank robbery that went wrong. Inspired by her own past feelings of aimlessness, as well as a newspaper article detailing a woman's participation in a bank robbery, Loden wrote the screenplay for Wanda before securing financing through Harry Schuster, a Los Angeles-based producer. The film was shot on location with a small crew of about 7 people, primarily in eastern Pennsylvania and Connecticut, and much of the dialogue and filming was improvised, with Loden only loosely referring to her written screenplay. Loden said the film was semi-autobiographical and that she was inspired to write it after reading a newspaper report that a woman had thanked a judge after he sentenced her to 20 years in prison for her participation in a bank robbery. The film was shot on 16mm stock on a budget of roughly $100,000 with a crew of 4. Loden, cinematographer Nicholas Proferes, who also edited the film, Lars Hedman, doing lighting and sound, and production assistant Christopher Cromman. Loden and Michael Higgins were the only 2 professional actors in the production, and most of their scenes were a result of improvisation. Hence, it's easily confused for a documentary feature because of its raw, verite look and feel. Wanda premiered at the 31st Venice International Film Festival, where it was the only American entry, and it won the International Critics' Prize for the Best Film that year. It was also exhibited at the London Film Festival and at the San Francisco Film Festival. Now, the film nearly got lost forever during the restoration process in 2007. The Hollywood Film and Video Laboratory in Los Angeles formally closed and began purging film elements from its archive dating back to the 1950s. The original 16mm Kodak Ektachrome ECB film elements of Wanda were uncovered during this purging and subsequently acquired by the UCLA Film and Television Archive, saving them from being disposed of in a landfill. The film elements were restored, and the film was subsequently screened at the Museum of Modern Art in 2010. A close call. Criterion released Wanda in the US December 2018 on Blu-ray, and it's this release that now comes to our UK shores. The cast in the film supporting Barbara Loden are Michael Higgins playing Norman Dennis, Frank Giordano as the soldier, Valerie Manche as the girl in the roadhouse, Dorothy Supens as Wanda's sister, Peter Supens as Wanda's brother-in-law, Jerome Thier as Wanda's husband, Marion Thier as Miss Kodek, Anthony Rotel as Tony, and M. L. Kennedy as the judge. The features on the Blu-ray are a new 2K digital restoration by the UCLA Film and Television Archive, the Film Foundation and Gucci, with uncompressed mono soundtrack on the Blu-ray. I Am Wanda, an hour-long documentary by Katia Raganelli featuring an interview with the director Barbara Loden, filmed in 1980. Audio recording of Loden speaking to students at the AFI in 1971. Segment from a 1971 episode of The Dick Cavett Show featuring Barbara Loden. The Frontier Experience from 1975, a short educational film about a pioneer woman's struggle to survive, directed by and starring Barbara Loden. A trailer and an essay by the film critic Amy Tobin. With her first and only feature film, a hard luck drama she wrote, directed and starred in, Barbara Loden turned in a groundbreaking work of American independent cinema, bringing to life a kind of character seldom seen on screen. Wanda has a running time of 103 minutes and an aspect ratio of 137:1, which means it's got horizontal black bars on some screens. It releases in the UK on Monday the 17th of April and it's spine 965.